You did not choose to become a Roman soldier. The choice was made for you by circumstances that left you with very few alternatives. Maybe your family had no land and no trade to pass on to you. Maybe you owed money you could not repay and the army offered a way out. Maybe a recruiter showed up in your town and the signing bonus looked like salvation. Whatever brought you to that moment, you raised your right hand and swore an oath. That oath bound you to Rome for 25 years, not 2 years, not 5 years, 25 years of your life, handed over completely. You were probably around 17 or 18 years old when you signed. You would be in your early 40s before you were legally free to leave. This is what happened to you in the years between. Part 1. The oath and what it actually meant. The sacramentum was the military oath every Roman soldier swore upon enlistment. It was not a formality or a ceremony designed to make you feel important. It was a legally binding contract that transferred ownership of your body to the Roman state. From the moment you swore it, your commanding officer had the power of life and death over you. Roman military law permitted commanders to execute soldiers for cowardice, desertion, and disobedience. The execution method for serious offenses was decimation, which you need to understand properly. Decimation did not mean severe punishment in the modern sense of the word. It meant selecting one soldier in every 10 by lot and beating him to death with bare hands. His fellow soldiers did the beating, not outside executioners. The men selected were often not the ones who had committed the original offense. The point was not punishment of the guilty, but the terror of the innocent. Every soldier watched knowing that the next time the lot could fall on him. Alongside the oath came the complete surrender of your personal identity. Your name was entered into the legion's records and you became a number in a unit. Your hair was cut short on the first day. Your civilian clothing was taken and replaced with military-issued equipment. You were no longer a person from a particular town with a particular family. You were a legionary, and that was the only identity that mattered from that point forward. Part 2. The March and the Wait. A Roman legion on the move was one of the most logistically impressive operations in the ancient world. It was also one of the most physically brutal experiences a human body could be put through. A standard marching day covered between 18 and 25 miles, depending on terrain and urgency. You covered that distance carrying somewhere between 40 and 60 pounds of equipment on your body. The load included your shield, 2 javelins, a short sword, body armor, a helmet, and a pack. The pack contained your personal rations, cooking equipment, a pickaxe, a wooden stake, and tools for camp construction. You were not just a soldier. You were a porter, a builder, and a farmer all at once. Roman soldiers built their own camps at the end of every single marching day. A full marching camp required digging a ditch around the perimeter, constructing a rampart, and planting wooden stakes. This construction happened after the march, not before rest. You marched all day, and then you built before you slept. The Roman military diet was built around grain, specifically a wheat porridge called pulse. Each soldier received a daily ration of wheat that he was expected to grind and cook himself. Meat was a rare supplement rather than a regular part of the diet. Soldiers assigned to campaigns in cold northern climates like Britain or Germania got no adjustment for the weather. The same ration system designed for the Mediterranean sun was applied equally in the rain and snow of the north. Soldiers in colder postings supplemented their rations by foraging, trading, and sometimes simply taking from local populations. The army looked the other way because keeping soldiers fed was more important than keeping locals content. Part 3. Where you were sent and how long you stayed. Rome's empire at its peak stretched from Britain in the northwest to Mesopotamia in the east. When you enlisted in Rome or in Italy, you had no say in where you would be posted. Soldiers from warm Mediterranean provinces were regularly sent to the rainy northern frontier and kept there for years. A posting to Britannia, which the Romans called the edge of the known world, could last a decade. You were not permitted to legally marry during your 25-year service period. This did not stop soldiers from forming long-term relationships with local women near their postings. These relationships produced children who were legally classified as illegitimate under Roman law. The children could not inherit their father's citizenship or property until a legal reform changed the rules. When you finally received your honorable discharge after 25 years, you were given several things. You received a bronze diploma confirming your service and the rights attached to it. You received a land grant in a veteran colony, which sounded generous until you saw the land. Veteran colonies were often established in recently conquered territories at the edges of the empire. The land granted was frequently in regions that locals resented Roman presence in deeply. You had spent 25 years surviving warfare and marching across the empire. Your retirement was a small holding in a hostile frontier region surrounded by people who did not want you there. Many veterans could not farm effectively because of injuries sustained during service. The physical toll of 25 years of Roman military life left most men permanently damaged in some way. Part 4. What battle actually looked like. Roman battle tactics are well documented and they were genuinely effective at the strategic level. At the individual level, they were terrifying and disorienting in ways that no written account fully captures. The standard Roman infantry formation placed you shoulder to shoulder with the men on either side. Your shield locked against the shield of the man to your left. The formation moved forward as a single mass, not as a collection of individuals. You could not break and run without destroying the formation that was keeping everyone around you alive. The social pressure of standing your ground was reinforced by the legal consequences of running. Fleeing in battle was a capital offense under Roman military law in certain circumstances. The javelin you carried was designed with a specific engineering feature that most people do not know about. The metal shank connecting the tip to the wooden shaft was deliberately made from soft iron. When the javelin hit a shield, it bent on impact, making it impossible for the enemy to throw it back. This was not accidental. Roman engineers designed a weapon that became useless after a single use on purpose. After throwing your javelins, you closed to short sword distance with whatever was in front of you. The gladius, the Roman short sword, was optimized for stabbing rather than slashing in close quarters. Roman soldiers were trained to use the point of the sword rather than the edge. A stabbing wound to the torso was almost always fatal in an era without effective medical treatment. Roman military medicine was surprisingly developed compared to civilian medicine of the same period. Each legion had its own medical staff and dedicated facilities for treating wounded soldiers. This was not done out of compassion, but out of logistics. A recovered soldier was cheaper than a trained replacement. Part 5. The things nobody tells you. Pay was one of the biggest sources of grievance in the Roman army throughout its history. The theoretical pay rate sounds reasonable until you understand what was deducted before you received anything. The army deducted the cost of your food, your equipment, and your weapons directly from your salary. It also deducted a compulsory contribution to a burial fund shared among the soldiers of your unit. What remained after deductions was often significantly less than half of your nominal pay rate. Soldiers saved what little remained because there was almost nothing to spend money on during a frontier posting. Upon discharge, the accumulated savings were often the only financial asset a veteran had. Boredom was a far more constant companion than battle for most Roman soldiers. The Roman Empire was large, but most of it was not at war at any given moment. A soldier stationed on the Rhine frontier in a peaceful period might go years without significant combat. The days were filled with drilling, maintenance, guard duty, construction work, and administrative tasks. Soldiers were used as engineers to build roads, bridges, aqueducts, and public buildings across the empire. Many of the most impressive pieces of Roman infrastructure were built by military labor, not civilian contractors. Religious life inside the legion was intense and carefully managed by the Roman state. Soldiers were required to participate in regular ceremonies honoring the emperor and the standards of the legion. The eagle standard of the legion was treated as a sacred object of almost religious significance. Losing the eagle in battle was considered one of the worst catastrophes that could befall a legion. 3 legions lost their eagles in the Teutoburg forest ambush of 9 AD, and Rome never fully recovered psychologically. Augustus Caesar reportedly wandered his palace at night for months afterward, saying, "Give me back my legions." 25 years, that is what you gave. You gave it not because Rome asked nicely, but because the alternatives were worse. You marched in heat and snow carrying weight that would break most modern athletes within a week. You built camps after marching all day and tore them down before marching again the next morning. You stood in formations that required you to trust the man beside you with your life every single time. You watched friends die from wounds, from disease, from the cold, and from things nobody had a name for. You followed orders from men who had legal authority to kill you for disobedience. And at the end of all of it, Rome handed you a piece of land at the edge of the world. Somewhere a local population looked at you arriving on their land and resented every step you took. You were too tired and too old to start a fight about it. So you planted your crops and you waited for the life you had already spent.